This video is sponsored by Loot Crate, the monthly subscription service for epic geeking gamer items and pop culture gear. If you're not reading Marvel's Spidey comic, you really should be. It is great and follows a young Peter Parker around the time he first gains his powers and starts to become that crime-fighting web-slinger we know and love. But there are a few inconsistencies with the timeline. I mean, Spider-Man was a hero when the Ed Sullivan Show was airing new episodes and John Belushi was on SNL. This new Spidey series, which is still meant to be in continuity with those same comics from the 60s and 70s, shows a world with smartphones, Twitter, and the Game of Thrones TV show. How is that even possible? How does time in the Marvel Universe work? Originally, Marvel's continuity worked basically in real time. When the world was thrown into war, so were the comics. Captain America fought Hitler and the Nazis in the 1940s, then later fought communists in the 1950s. The Fantastic Four's origin was entrenched in the Cold War, Iron Man's in Vietnam. As Marvel went on to introduce some of their most popular characters, they initially aged in real time. Peter Parker was a high school student when he first debuted, and it only took him a full 28 issues from 1962 to 1965 to graduate and enroll in college. But time in comics is weird and inconsistent. It follows no rules. It wasn't long before stories stopped happening in real time. And in 1967, we got the first reference of Marvel time in a letters column regarding a fan asking how long it would actually take for Sue Storm to finally give birth to her son, Franklin Richards, whom we'll talk more about in a bit. In their response, Marvel explained, quote, "We can't stand this battle between real time and Marvel time another second. Real time, that is. So we're gonna suck it to you straight. Although a complete story may take place within a day, that doesn't necessarily mean the next story takes place the very next day. The following yarn could begin the next week, the next month, or even the next year. Then on the other hand, the next 20 issues might occur within a period of 20 days. This makes nailing down exactly how much characters age from story to story pretty complicated. In Sensational She-Hulk, a character named Wheezy tries to make it a little simpler, explaining that characters remain roughly the same age so long as they continue appearing in comic books. She herself used to be the Golden Age hero in the 1940s named the Blonde Phantom, married to a detective named Mark Mason. Wheezy explained to She-Hulk that she and Mark stopped appearing in comics before the 1950s. They started to grow older. The two waited and waited for their chance to make a return to the pages of superhero comics, but they waited too long. Mark passed away in his old age. Quote, "But you see, if we'd still been in a comic book, he'd still have been 35. At the time, it might have just been easier for Marvel to age their characters in real time, but that presents some problems. Most notably, Marvel had no idea they'd still be making new stories about their then freshly thought up heroes over 50 years later. After a handful of years, they realized that their characters were aging too quickly. If Spider-Man really was 15 in 1962 and he aged at the same rate we do, he'd be nearing his 70s today. I'd be impressed if the spandex still looked as good. Marvel didn't want to risk retiring the characters that had made them a cultural phenomenon, so they had to come up with a plan. Time in the Marvel Universe had to slow down, keeping their heroes younger for longer. Even though Spider-Man graduated high school in real time, the next 4 years of his college life spanned across 13 years of our time from 1965 to 1978. But this solution creates its own set of issues. It's one thing for Marvel to make time run slower, but that would mean that their characters would be forever stuck in the 1960s and 70s where most of them first appeared, potentially making their heroes and the world they live in less and less relatable as time in the real world moves forward. However, Marvel decided that keeping their world consistent with our own was important, so they had to do something a little counterintuitive and kind of clever. They had to disconnect the timelines of the worlds they created and the characters who live in it. To demonstrate this, let's look at Iron Man, a character whose origin initially took place during the Vietnam War. To keep Tony Stark from aging, Marvel could have just framed all of his stories in this same time period forever, but they didn't. Tony lives in a world that resembles closely our own. Iron Man and the world he lives in progress at alarmingly different rates. Time seems to slide past him. To compensate, Marvel has to update his origin, compressing the events forward in time. No longer was he captured during the Vietnam War. Stark was now captured during the war in Afghanistan, and that'll only continue to change and possibly become more vague. Punisher, a Vietnam vet who was even featured in Marvel's The Nam comic, had his origin updated as well, so that he was never even serving in Vietnam. Comic writer Greg Rucka explained that they changed it because they, quote, wanted to make Frank younger, because if he fought in Vietnam, he'd be in his 70s, and I'd get more mileage out of him being in his early 40s. He went on to explain, quote, in that broad brush vague Marvel Universe sense, there's always the war, whatever it was. If that put him in the Middle East rather than Southeast Asia, I think that matters less for the purposes of the Marvel Universe. End quote. It's this same sliding timescale that allows us to see Spidey's origin both in a time with the Ed Sullivan Show and Twitter. Peter remained the same as the timeline moved forward. This does present another problem, however. As the characters in the Marvel Universe refuse to age normally, all of their adventures over the past 50+ years of continuity seem to have all taken place within 10 or so years. The timeline of their heroic triumphs and depressing failures is compressed. This has the problem of taking power away from what should be powerful events. Aliens invade now every few weeks, it seems. There's a possible world-ending event every other month. It's just what happens. Characters would die and come back to life in the blink of an eye, or on the off chance that someone did stay dead. The compressed timeline means that we as observers might see other characters mourning their tragic loss for years, when really it'd only be couple days. There's just no breathing room, no time for anything to sink in before we move on to the next big story, which maybe is intentional. It mirrors the life of a superhero. As Spidey asked, can superheroes ever take the day off? Asking for a friend. Marvel's attitude of maintaining the status quo and never seeing their heroes truly progress seems almost childish. So it's no wonder that many have drawn comparisons between the editors at Marvel and one of their own characters, Franklin Richards. The son of Mr. Fantastic and Invisible Woman, Franklin Richards was born with incredible powers. He can effectively control everything. He can create and manipulate entire universes. Much like real-life Marvel writers and editors, Franklin controls the very fabric of their comic book universe and doesn't want it to change. Franklin arrived on the scene in Fantastic Four Annual number 6 from 1968, around the period when Marvel Comics stopped progressing in real time. Since that day, he has barely aged. His birth marked the slowing down of time in the Marvel Universe. Afraid of change, it's Franklin who keeps everyone young as the world progresses around them. Well, at least characters that he/Marvel care about. Sorry, Wheezy. Marvel Comics is Franklin Richards, and Franklin Richards is a child. He doesn't want the world to change. He doesn't want to risk people growing up and moving on. Franklin likes things the way they are, so he keeps them that way by jumping through hoops and coming up with crazy, convoluted stories that ultimately maintain the status quo. We think we see change, but all we really see is the illusion of change. Time in the Marvel Universe moves forward, but the characters in it hang back, because Franklin is too scared of losing those close to him. Which is to say that Marvel itself is too afraid of once and for all closing the books on their beloved characters. They might have to, sooner rather than later. Not in the comics, but in the cinematic universe. The actors are aging, and only so many movies can be made each year. How many more stories with Iron Man and Captain America and Black Widow do we have left? Eventually, contracts will expire and the actors will find work elsewhere, and Marvel will be left with the decision of either recasting or finally allowing their heroes to grow up and move on. And if it's met with a favorable reception, who knows? Perhaps we might see their comic book counterparts follow suit, at long last getting that day off that they've earned. What do you guys think about Marvel time? Would you like to see heroes progress in real time or kept young? Do you think Marvel Studios should continuously recast roles or let the actors end their hero's journey naturally? Let's talk about it all in the comments down below. And you know what? I love Loot Crate. There, I said it. For less than $20 a month, you get 6 to 8 items that include licensed gear, apparel, collectibles, and unique one-of-a-kind goodness things. This month's theme is anti-hero, celebrating all of our favorite unconventional protagonists with 100% exclusive items from DC Comics, Archer, Dark Horse, and Kill Bill. Sign up right now at lootcrate.com/nerdsync and enter the code NerdSync to save 10% off any new subscription. You have until the 19th at 9 p.m. Pacific to subscribe and receive that month's crate. And when the cutoff happens, that's it. It's over. Forever. You missed it. The reason I love Loot Crate is because they've supported YouTubers since the company shipped its very first crates. They're a genuinely awesome company filled with genuinely awesome people, and supporting Loot Crate means that you support this little channel that we do around here. So once again, that's lootcrate.com/nerdsync and enter the code NerdSync. If you like this video, we put together a whole playlist of time-related videos featuring The Flash, Doctor Who, and that one time that Lois Lane almost became Superman's mom. Yeah, that's pretty weird. We've also got this other playlist of videos on the history of the comic book industry that you should absolutely check out by clicking either right here or the link in the description down below. And make sure you hit that big sexy subscribe button so you don't miss out on all the new videos we make for you every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday that explore the history, science, art, and philosophy behind your favorite comic book superheroes. My name is Scott, reminding you to read between the panels and grow smarter through comics. See ya.